Hey guys, this is Alex. In my continuing saga of measuring things about locks and tolerances, I've set up a little demonstration. This is called a test indicator. Happens to be a Starrett. I got it used on eBay fairly inexpensively. It is graduated in units of 5/10,000ths of an inch, which you can just sort of barely see there, which is about 0.0125 mil or so, but say 0.01 millimeters. So for example, if the needle is at 5, that's 5/1000ths, or 0.125 millimeters. Anyhow, so and this reads in both directions. So I have the point of the instrument sort of stuck in a little round area on the plug, so that even rotation of the plug, and close to center, so even if the plug rotates I should not get much error. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the plug up and down and see how much total run out there is. So what we're doing is we're measuring, let's just make sure this is, yeah, it's close to 0. My little rig here is not as sturdy as it should be. At any rate, we're going to measure the motion of the plug in this direction, okay, which is really the gap at the shear line, at least at the front. Now remember, it's like a lever, so it's canted in there, so the actual tolerance is magnified a little bit by that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this tension wrench in the center of the lock, and I'm just going to push. I'm not prying, I'm actually pushing up and then pulling down. So we're going to look at the total movement. So just from the resting position, I think pushing up, I'm just under spring, a little bit of spring tension. But if I re-zero this, oops, this is a piece of crap. Don't buy Chinese indicator stands. But what we see is that it bottoms out at around 5.5 or 6/1000ths of an inch, which is about 0.15, 0.15 millimeters. Okay, and that's a significant movement. You can see it, and you can definitely feel it when you put the key in. Okay, and that represents, if you're tensioning and pushing the plug in this direction up, that, well, see, if you bang on this thing, it doesn't work right. But if you're tensioning the plug up, you're going to be pulling the plug away from the shear line and actually open up the shear line a little bit. So let me just show you. Here's the lock. And let me just take this off here so I can point at it. Here's the tip of the indicator. So it's like a little ball. And I think you can change these out, but I don't have any other ones. And I had it inserted straight in this area here, right at this like little cross area. So it was, you know, basically could pivot in this area and wasn't going to flop around, and it was close to center, so if there was any rotation it would be very minimal. It would register very minimally on the indicator. And just to show you the operation of the indicator, so if I push back, it goes in that direction. I mean, it's very, very sensitive. And if I push it the other way, it goes in that direction. So it measures basically, I think, 0.15 of an inch in each direction. Okay. So whatever that works out to in millimeters, it'll appear like right in there. And so the play we were looking at is, if I can find my tensor again, what I was basically doing is pushing up and down on the cylinder. And you can see it really, I mean, it rotates a tiny bit, but most of that is just the vertical travel in it. And that's what I was measuring. So if you look at this spot right here at the top, as I pull this down, you can see the gap open up. Now, what that means is that if I push up on the plug, I get a gap of a similar size at the shear line. So in this case, I'm getting an extra 6 thousandths of an inch, 5 or 6 thousandths of an inch, or what do we say, 0.1 millimeters, something like that, 0.12 millimeters at the top, and you know, it's quite a lot of room to work with. I mean, I didn't even measure the rotational thing. We'd have to do some like pi over 2 kind of crap for that, but yeah, so I decided not to take this lock apart to measure the plug diameter and everything, and the shell, but yeah, I can get a pretty good approximation here. So there you go. So when you see this in a lock, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. I mean, this is Therial is a well-respected brand, and this may not be one of their highest-end locks, but take advantage of it. So when you tension, if you tension this thing this way, you can see that gap opens up, right? So I'm pressing the shear line together. I'm making my life harder, right? Because I want those pins to slide at the shear line, and if the more room there is there, the more opportunity there is for that to happen. Okay, if I tension in the other direction, right, pulling up, you can see that gap closes, okay, and it opens up here, right? And if I tension in from the other, if I were to, you know, if I decided I wanted to, but the other thing is I can manipulate that shear line. I don't know how well you can see the plug moving up and down, but I can, by changing sort of the force I'm applying, the force vector I'm applying on the tension wrench, I can modulate that shear line a little bit, potentially give myself a little extra room. I can also rock it back and forth so that I raise the shear line at the rear of the lock. Just a little fine, you know, fine-tuning kind of deal. It's not to say that, you know, it's going to necessarily make the difference between picking the lock or not, but it might get you out of a sticky situation. And you certainly should at least start off by making your life easier. So you probably don't need one of these. If you do get one, you know, Starrett, of course, is my preferred brand, or Mitutoyo is also excellent. But I just happen to have one of these because I'm a geek. Yeah, really nice for precision measurements. And this little dial spins around so you can zero it out wherever you have it. And whatever you do, don't buy that indicator holder. This thing is a piece of crap. I actually had to move the mount because it like popped out of where it was, where it came installed. So, but it's the only one I have that has a thing that will hold the dovetail on the Starrett. So I have to get another one. They're pretty expensive. Anyhow, so yeah, thank you for watching. Hope you haven't fallen asleep. Yeah, and as always, have fun, keep learning, and keep it legal. Cheers.